Hello world, and welcome back to another one of my videos. I am Amelia, and yes, I know it's been a few weeks, and I'm trying to get back into these video routines, and it's just really difficult. But we have a new recording position, so I can actually sit and be comfortable in my own bedroom and enjoy my big office chair and not have to stare into the big sun that's over my monitors anymore. So let's hope these videos actually end up turning out right. So I'm gonna actually today be back into talking about one of my videos about what it's like to be transgender, because honestly, what I've experienced with people who aren't transgender is they are actually really curious. What is it like to go through these changes? What is it like to experience it? And I know that our experiences are unique. I mean, I can go and I can ask anybody else I know who's transgender, and they always give a different answer. It's really hard to find that consistency, per se. So, as some people may know, I'm 33 years old. I started transitioning when I was 31. I started in October of 2018. And it was very unique for me because I had already experienced my my male puberty back when I was in my preteens, and now here I was back in, you know, a year and a half ago, almost now, going through another puberty, going through a female puberty, which actually I know some trans people can talk about is really horrible and really sucky. For me, honestly, it really was not that bad, but there are some unique highs and lows, some very unique things to experience in such to go through such an experience. For me personally, I think one of the biggest accomplishments, I should say, for me personally, is personality. Excuse me. I've actually had a lot of people tell me that my personality has probably been the biggest thing that has changed. The way I conduct myself, the way I act. And a lot of people have told me that it makes me far more genuine to their perspectives and how they perceive me versus my looks. And that's why, like, my looks can come off kind of unfortunate to some people, but once they get to know me and they've actually talked to me, I convince them. Not something I'm going to get into this video, but nonetheless worth mentioning. So I can definitely know that one of the biggest things that I've experienced was the emotional aspect. When I was in my teens, I remember feeling like anger was the only emotion I was allowed to feel. Society kind of tells men, which is a really unfortunate thing, because boys and men do actually feel emotions. I mean, just the fact that, you know, maybe I might have had gender dysphoria and I was questioning. But the fact that I could actually feel emotions as a child and as a teenager and as a young man does actually mean that, you know, that it is something that is expressible. It's just that a lot of times I think most men don't know how to express those emotions, how to deal with them. And that's why for me personally, I experienced a lot of anger and hurt, and my emotions were bottled up. I didn't feel like society gave me anywhere to express them. It didn't give me anywhere to actually let them out, and you know, and that gets into a whole social topics and conversations. But the point is that was one of the very first things I experienced, because as soon as I went on estrogen, I felt like my emotions could flow, because, I mean, even now, the way I act, my personality, I'm much more happy, I'm much more excitable, and I've had people actually notice this. And that is because our society allows women, girls, to be that way, to be more passionate, to be more expressive. And I'm not saying this is right or wrong for both men and women, but the biggest experiences I've had as a trans woman is that now when I'm sad, I can be sad. When I'm happy, I can be happy. When there's just that thing that thing that's there. I mean, 1 minute I can be sad, 1 minute I can be happy, and I can express a whole range of emotions without feeling regret and sadness. And my life is so much better just for that reason alone. The other things, I just in general just want to mention without taking too much longer in this video that it was definitely the things that I appreciate the most was about the fact that I could feel. And I mean, I have experienced times where just randomly I drop or broke something and then I just start breaking down in tears. And I mean, as I've heard some other trans women say, it's like all of a sudden you start experiencing PMS, which it is kind of true, but kind of not. I mean, I'm kind of one of those people that's kind of in the middle because I understand what trans women say, because estrogen is still going to affect our bodies the same. Our bodies still have the biology and the chemistry to be able to have PMS symptoms. It's just that the conditions got to be right. It's not usually a frequent cycling thing. It does actually happen, and I've experienced it. I've experienced it all too well in some cases. Anyways, the other thing is the physical changes. I remember when I started, one of the biggest things that happened with me was I was going bald. My hairline was like practically way up here. I had a bald spot in the back here, and you can literally see within a matter of a month or two, my hair started growing back. I still really have a really high hairline, and it's why I'm always wearing headbands and hats or something with my hair, brushing my hair forward. And I would like to do something about that one day, but as it stands right now, just in general, 17 months has been very generous to me for my age. And considering that my dad was going bald in his 30s, I really honestly caught that bad direction at a fairly good time in my life. Any later probably wouldn't have been a good idea. The other things that I experienced was fairly right away, fat redistribution. I can remember my wrists used to be skinnier. I have like a layer of fat that's now built up on my arms. I know some trans women talk about hair reduction on their face and their bodies. I can't really exactly say that I experienced that because, for one thing, I've been getting laser for well before I even started my hormones, my hormone replacement therapy. So I really honestly can't say that I saw much hair reduction, though I did definitely notice some easier management of it, I guess. So I kind of did notice it, but I'm not really sure if it was the laser that did that or if it is my hormones. But I can at least say that I don't see hair coming back as bad as it once was. The other thing is skin softness. My skin, like my hands used to be thinner and redder and much more dry, which you can see on my right hand. I still have it kind of bad here. I still have really bad callus from my days working at AT&T and being an electrical technician. And that's still something that hasn't quite gone away, but overall my body is way softer. I've had people point out how soft my body is and kind of gentle it feels. And that's something that makes me happy too. The next thing that I did notice was, you know, I mentioned the fat redistribution was my body. Within a matter of a couple months after I starting, I felt like my sides, I could literally like wake up. I remember waking up one morning and almost feeling like a tingling sensation in my sides. And that was because my body had been moving fat out of my sides and redistributing it to other places on my body, like on my arms and my hips. It was definitely a very unique experience, and it did take some time to happen. Like now today, I do have a little bit of an hourglass figure. My hips were always kind of wide in my teens. I can't exactly say why, but the fat did start more and more building up in my hips, and today it's one of those things where, yeah, if you were a guy, these things would be freaking you out. But for someone like me, looking at my man body and changing was a dream come true. It was amazing. It was the best thing that could possibly happen to somebody like me. You look down and you're like, oh my gosh. You look in the mirror and you wake up in the morning and you're like, I'm a girl now. I really am a girl now. I do know I still have my shortcomings and I still have things that I want to achieve, but, you know, to be in the fact that I'm 17 months in is actually quite amazing for what I've achieved. And then, of course, there is the obvious, which is boobs. I had already kind of had a little bit of something going on there prior to me starting HRT, and that was because I was overweight for most of my life. I still technically am really overweight, but it is something I'm finally addressing in my life. And I can just remember literally within 2 months, I was a small B cup. Today I am more like a small C cup. It's still growing. I still know that they're coming in. It could take 3 to 5 years for a total getting to the maximum size. Personally, I don't know if I will ever get breast augmentation. It is something I'm still personally wrestling with the idea of doing. But I can definitely say that, again, it's one of those things that made me very happy to see estrogen giving me something that I wanted for so much of my life. And then finally, one of the last things that I really saw estrogen do to my body is muscle reduction. Within a matter of, like, I remember in the past, I could lift a 60-pound bag of concrete, not really too difficult. However, that really changed for me because I work in a hardware store as a cashier. I can remember I struggle. I really, really struggle to lift anything over 40 pounds now. One of the biggest things I saw is the muscle reduction up here. I can remember, and this takes a long time to change. I know that last summer I was actually dealing with, there's a jacket actually hanging up right back here. It's a jean jacket. And it was one of the frustrating things for me very early on since I went full-time. As soon as I started transitioning, I went full-time as a woman. And this jean jacket was, like, really tight on me. It was, like, my arms were, like, pulled to the back. And it was really frustrating to have happen. But as soon as I put that jean jacket on, now, back in December and January, it fits like a glove. It feels amazing because all this muscle up here, it's kind of hard to point out now, but this, like, my muscle here, like, when I flex, is nowhere near what it used to be. You can tell that my shoulders, like when I'm in the buff in front of the mirror, you can tell my shoulders are not as big as they once were. And as I did talk to my psychologist back in December, she mentioned how all of this can actually take years to actually shrink down and go away. But just knowing that it's changing and it's going to ultimately contribute to me being much more passable is amazing. And it is something that makes, and I guess I can just lead into my next thing about transitioning. The biggest things that I notice is the psychological change, because when you're somebody who's born with gender dysphoria, or you develop it a little bit later in life, it is very catastrophic to how you feel about yourself. It really destroys your self-esteem. It destroys who you are. It's something that's very difficult to even just know is up there in your mind somewhere, something that you have to deal with on them. I mean, if you're somebody who was born as a man, imagine looking in the mirror and always constantly seeing a woman and always constantly being treated as such, being treated as weak, being treated as you can't do better, that you're going to grow up and just become a mother and you're going to have to do the children and you can't go out there and do the things you want to do. And then in the opposite spectrum, imagine if you're a woman and you look in the mirror and you see this bodybuilder, which not necessarily means that that's who you see, but or not necessarily means that's what your body is, but a lot of times we also see extremes of ourselves. So someone like me, I look in the mirror pre-HRT, I would look in the mirror and I would always see an extreme, ugly version of myself just because of how gender dysphoria made me feel. And that's why the psychological change that comes with transitioning is amazing, because literally, I mean, even just knowing that estrogen is now in your body can make you feel better. And yes, you do always need a little bit of a progress. If you start stalling, it can be hard. Like I tell you, because changes do come much slower later in life, it can become much more difficult to always keep positive and being like, oh yeah, that change is coming, that change is coming. Because it can take 3 to 5 years for you to really reach the full potential of your transition. But psychologically, it really does help. And it's like I've told people, I've told my parents, I don't regret the decision I made just because I feel like a different person. I am happy to be Amelia now. When I updated my driver's license, it was the most amazing feeling to be like, I live in a day and an age where I can be me. And yeah, it can be hurtful to still be able to go in public and still have people give me weird looks and not be able to be exactly sure if they should be mamming or sirring me. But at least I live in an area that's fairly nice as far as not at least just avoiding the subject if they can. I mean, it doesn't always happen, but it does happen. Like, it happened earlier today. I went out to a restaurant and there was the guy mamming customers, female customers left and right, but then when he came to address me, he just didn't say anything. So, I mean, I guess I can be happy that I live in an area like that, but in general, it's another accomplishment that I do need to face. Anyways, so just talking about those changes, I mean, the changes emotionally, the changes that you see through perspectives of talking to people, people treating you different. Like, for example, because I transitioned legally, just that alone has helped me psychologically, because now I can call into my insurance company, I can call into my credit card company, and because my voice sounds different, that right there can be a reason that I call into somewhere and I get gendered on the phone correctly. Like, I can't tell you. I honestly now don't fear calling in as often, because when I call in, the phone calls are usually, yes, ma'am, you know, have a great day, ma'am. And that can be something that can feel so great and comforting to just be like, I'm not stuck as someone I wasn't. And so it's good. I mean, there's still the bad, but it's good. It feels good. And it's a breath of fresh air to see the changes and the body mass changes and the fat redistribution and stuff like that. So anyways, I'm going to drop this video here. I'm going to remind you, if you've seen a couple of my videos, you need to subscribe. I'm trying to do it weekly, but if there's ever going to be any success to me being able to do this, you need to subscribe. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel, follow my social media, and I will see you next time. Talk to you later. Bye.